In this video, I am going to add a facade to this building that I have designed. So in the last video, we did a nice ground floor plan and we did a mezzanine floor plan. And then we spent some time kind of breaking the core up and articulating the commercial part of the building. And we've left this completely unfloor planned because it's a tenancy, open tenancy, so it's not our problem. So we've got a pretty good, commercial sense of this building and planning sense of the areas, the breakup, etc. We've got the bones of a structural system. There's a big core that's going to stop this cantilever from falling down, but we don't know the slab thicknesses, the beams, the columns, any of that structural logic. None of the services either, as in I've drawn a services riser, but how that works and is articulated, whether that even makes sense or whether it needs to come in here, is indicative. And the other main system that we haven't drawn is the facade. And so the facade is the most architectural of the systems. And so I'm going to create a little flow to create a facade for this building. And I want it to be kind of smart, but not super smart. I always say I'm going for about as smart as a cat and no smarter. So I'm going to draw a geometry and I'm putting it on a layer here called facade. I'm going to draw it there. Well, actually, I'll leave it there for now because what I want to do is get its base height to the right height and then its height. Actually, it's floor to floor, which will be 3.8, and the number of levels, which I think is 17. Okay, so you can see there the height is not correct because this thing's height is 3.8 and this thing's height is 4.5. So 3.8 plus 4.5, 7.5, 8.3. 8.3. And then the floors are actually, I can see one less, it's actually 16. And that's because this bottom floor is going to have a different facade system. This is our restaurant over here. It's going to have its own sort of fancy, beautiful glazing onto this rooftop garden. But this is going to be the tower. And I think in future, we got to articulate this facade over here. So I'll do that for now. But then I'm going to pull it away because I just want to think about this sort of system in isolation, like kind of a wrapper. And the way that Giraffe works, I'm going to add a flow to this. So I'm going to say add flow and new flow. And this is the hypnotized butterfly. This flow can be attached to other geometries. And so this is kind of like a placeholder for the flow for now. All right. And I want to do something, a little bit of something. So what I want to do is I'm aligned to the grid right now. So if I do this and I go to my snap and my grid and I align 2D to the grid. Now this is north up the page instead of grid north. So I want the western sun, which is the sun that comes from the west, which is low down, is hitting into our building. And so normally you put vertical louvers because horizontal louvers, the sun's so low it comes in between. Same with the eastern sun. Although western sun in Australia or in Sydney is terrible. And then northern sun is different because the sun's very high. And so this facade wants to be adaptive. So if something's more northy than westy, it should be horizontal. And if it's westy and easty, it should be vertical. And if it's south, it should be nothing because there's no sun in the south or there's very limited. Some argue that, in Sydney, the sun actually rises in the southern hemisphere. And so there is some solar gain on the building, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to sort of say just the fact that this is all solar powered now, like the more sun there is, the hotter it is, the more aircon you run. So this is kind of an old way of thinking. It's like in my house, right? I have no insulation at all. A, because I love leaving the doors open all the time. And B, we put on solar, which cost us very little. And we generate on a hot day when it's sunny, about 5 or 6 times the amount of power we consume, even if the air conditioning is running the whole day. So it's kind of a different equation now, isn't it? But still, let's do this flow. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to explode this. I'm going to put myself over there because otherwise maybe I can put myself here. I'm going to explode this geometry. And then I am going to map over it. And my first job is to figure out which segments of this geometry are north, south, east, and west. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to map over them and I'm going to measure a vector angle between 0, 1, 0, which is y, which I'm assuming is up the page, and the normal, as in orthogonal to the tangent of each polyline, each line segment. And so we use frame, because frame, if we deconstruct it, has this origin and the x and the y and the z. So it's got the normal, the tangent, and the z for every point on the frame. And we'll do it, I don't know, 3 meters down the line. Okay, so we do that. We'll just do it 1 meter down the line. Then we're going to measure an angle, and we're going to measure maybe the y. Then we'll do an SDL, because I want to visualize it. So SDL start direction length. We'll start there. We'll go in the y direction, and the length will be 3. And I am now going to I'm going to write the angle as a marker. And so the way you do that, you see this marker over here. And if you click on the properties and you click on the JSON, this is the marker. So if you write this object, see that marker text is ASDF. If you write that to this geometry, it will write as a marker. So I'm going to write that, pass it into an object so the computer knows it's not a string, it's an object. And then I am going to overwrite the text. So write a property, and it's going to be value.text is going to be, I'll just round that. I'm sure I'm going to need a round. It's going to come back crazy. We're going to write to this object, and then we're going to write feature property, and we're going to write the feature property marker. And the value is that. And I believe we're just going to do that. And then we're going to do this. And then this to tell what's gone wrong. Okay, something's wrong here. I need another one of those. There we go. Okay, that doesn't look right. 1, 3, 4. Indeed. Let me just see radians to degrees. That's an all right, let's do this. Okay, that looks more promising. 64. Oh, where's my STL here, friendo? Sure. Ah, there it is. Okay, so you just have to change that. Okay, that we can fix that. All right, so that's going the wrong way. It's going into the building. I want it to go out of the building. So I think if I just multiply this by -1, a vector multiplied by -1 is the negative of the vector. So I'll do that, that, that. There we go. Okay, and now I'm going to rotate this so it's just straight up the page. Okay, so that is 0. That's -90. That's +90. That's -180. No, that's 180, and that's -90. Okay, so it seems to be working. Okay, so now we want to split these things up, which is going to be a little difficult. So it's going to be a lot of logic. So there'll be like or. Do we have or? Or there's going to be and for sure. There's going to be smaller than, less than, and there's going to be greater than. Do we have an include? I know it's a list though. All right. Okay, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to write a property. So if it's less, if it passes 1, I'm going to put, if it's between 45 degrees and -45 degrees, I am going to write it north. Okay, so here's the angle. So I'm just going to pass that out in an identity. This is the angle. So if it's if it's less than 45 and or, no, and greater than minus 45. Just thinking now, ternary if. So if that's true, then I am going to write, and only one of these will be true. Then I'm going to write a property called direction. The value is going to be north. And I'm just going to take that feature. I'm going to take this feature and I'm going to write it back. Otherwise, I'm going to write nothing. And then write that. Great. Okay. So you can see there's one north, which is this. There should be two norths. Yeah. Okay. So that's good. So there's the north facade. All right. Now, next up, east and west. And I'm going to get this guy back just because this is a little confusing to me. So it goes minus, 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 minus 90. But then it goes positive 260. Okay, so, but this is 87. So now this is if it has to be greater than 45 and less than 135, I guess. And if that's the case, and that's an and, then we will go direction east. Okay. Should we test it again? Cool. Seems right. Yep. Okay. And now let's do direction. I actually don't need to return south because I'm not going to do anything on south. So now let's get our original boy back, which is this friend. So now if it's greater than 135, no, that's south. If it's greater than, what's 135 plus 90? 225. So if it's greater than 225, this is the hard bit because or less than negative 45, because it suddenly goes to minus 83, which is smaller than negative 45. But it can't be and, because it's not continuous, so it has to be or. We go. Then it's west. That's the one I'm least confident with. But I shouldn't have been. Perfect. Okay, nailed it. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put all of these into an identity. And I may get a whole bunch of nulls here, but let's just see. Okay, that's good. All right, it is actually great. Okay. And that's actually... I probably could have done this a bit smarter. Anyway, that's fine. I'm getting the west, the east, the north. It's looking good. I'm just about to delete this, but I won't yet. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bunch of filters. So I'm going to filter. Now I'm going to grab the feature and I am going to say read feature prop. And it's going to be directions equals is equals this. And now look, all lowercase. So if it's north, it passes. And now, and that's actually good enough for me because if it's not north, it's either east or west, and we're going to do the same thing with the east and the west. Okay, so now we can grab that line and we can do a stroke dash. And we can grab the stroke and do an offset polygon. And then we need the transforms for both of those. Those are both highly parameterized functions. So we'll do the stroke dash transform and we'll do the offset polygon transform. Okay, so the stroke dash is going to be 0, and then I think it goes 0.1, 2, 2, and this offset should be just a 0.3 to the left. And then we'll just write that. And there's almost certainly nulls in here, which is why this guy's getting unhappy. Did I get too excited just then? I think it's because this fails. What did I do wrong? It was working so well. Null. Just going to hit refresh. Often works. Here's our fella. Okay, what's going on? Oh, this changed. Okay, so hang on. So less than minus 45 or greater than. There we go. Okay, that's strange. I didn't notice that change. Okay, and now if we write this, it's not going to work because there are oh, this has gone to, okay, that's strange. Okay, so hang on, I must have disconnected from the database. Read feature property, direction. Okay, and this map is not going to work because you can see this is a nested list. Okay, fantastic. There we go. We got it. Now, spacing is 0.12, and the offset at the start is 0, and this is 0.3 to the left. Okay, and so that's our north-facing facades. That's fantastic. And now, sorry, I mean, that is actually, we should do our west and east facing facade. Okay, so it really doesn't like nulls. So, I don't know what knowledge covenant is. So I'll do another filter. And I will grab this and I'll go equals null. Sorry, panel. Cool. So that filters out the nulls. Hang on, does it? No, it doesn't. How do I get rid of null? I have to pass something that's always true, so that's what I do. You just do this and you get properties .app ID. You do this. Read feature property, and it is app ID. Something that's always going to be true, 1. So app ID equals 1. And app ID equals. There you go. There we go. All right. Painful in the extreme. But what I did there was I slowly fought that null to the ground. Okay, so that is actually east and west. And so for east and west, we do this. And then we're going to write it so the no facades is true. Feature property. Feature property. And we go. No facades. I think we may have to map all that. Well, no. Okay, let's see what's happening. No facade with a no S. No facade. Boom. And then we want hide vertical. This. There we go. And sorry, this is actually the north. Yeah. And then the west and the east were the other ones. So do this and pop it there. And they don't get this. They just go like this. Okay, now I need to edit these transforms in the right way. Okay, so we've got us first stroke dash goes. Put 1, add. 2. And actually what we'll do is we'll use the same stroke dash top and bottom like this. And so this will be the strokes. And then our offset is 1. Yeah. And then this offset is 3, and it's to the left, and it's to the left. And this is the strokes. So this is the dashes, and this is the strokes. And we are cooking with gas. Now this one can be a little bit more, maybe a meter. How many minutes are we in? 5 meters. Okay. And the last thing we're going to write here is another feature property. And it's going to be slab thickness, and it's going to be 0.1. Not last by any means. But let me do this, get this to 1. Okay, and the last is I'm going to rotate these guys. So each stroke, I'm going to get the end point. All right, I'm going to do this in a big old map. Okay, of each stroke dash. So I'll flatten these, and then I'll map them. Grab the end point, rotate on the vertical from there, and the angle is going to be 20 degrees. So the geometry is this, the center is this, the angle's 20. We'll write this, then we'll offset it. Then we'll write these properties, delete that, and see what's gone wrong. And then write it here. Great. Okay, we don't need these properties. Sorry. Oh. What happened? What happened? We were so... Oh, it's because there's things... So if you have a map and you have dangles, the engine really doesn't like them. All right, there we go. Okay, so we get this rotate, and I just think this offset stroke dash here can be a little bit fine. I wonder if we can do 5. Cool. All right, now what I want to try and do is change the color. You're good. We'll add a shiny. And we will make him white or very light silver. Wow, that was cool. But actually we don't want this shiny. So what we'll do is we'll make this not shiny. Then we'll make it whitish. And let's make the stroke, this thing or something like that, maybe a bit darker. All right, and now what I want to do as well is I'll copy all of these down to there. This guy, him, and just write this guy as well. Okay, and now I'm going to make this guy shiny. So I'm going to write feature property, shiny, true. Great. And I think what we need to do is actually write, I think we need louver color. So this can be, this thing is this guy, and I'll make it like a bit bluer. Oh, but then our louvers go blue, so I need to write an input that is louver color, and it's a color input. The default is like this, gray. And we're going to do, I'm going to flatten this list. Actually, just do it twice. Why not? Grab feature property, color, value that and value. Wait. How does this work? No. So I said property, not feature property. So you just have to write properties dot. All feature properties. Oh, sorry. I click back. All write feature property does is it writes properties dot for you. It's huge. Properties dot color, and this is properties dot color. Okay, so that's working. That's working. Back to this. Global lines. This. That's going to be the value. Delete. I should have gone the other way. I was a fool. This is inefficient. There we go. Okay, not bad. All right, now, last thing I'm going to do, just for this facade, because with 31 minutes, and hang on, let me just show you how cool this is. Now, in theory, if it's all hooked up correctly, I should be able to rotate this. Uh-oh. We've had a little... this sometimes happens when the graphics card gets overwhelmed. So I don't know if you saw that. So when I rotate this, let me just change these louvers to like a nice white. As this facade comes around to face the north, it suddenly switches to a vertical. And then as it comes around and eventually faces more east, it switches to the vertical. On the north, it's horizontal. So that's a classic kind of a architectural shading device. Reduce energy use of a building. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is I am going to, not on this facade, but on this facade, I'm going to shoot them up because it looks really wrong. It looks like cute pieces of glass. This actually looks like it's been broken up. Because you can see and I'll do this. Maybe even make it a bit darker because you can see those lines. Those look like little facade modules. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these strokes and I'm going to set them up like this. Now by grabbing them, copying them, and then doing this. And I don't want, I should see them there. Okay, you do. You see them there. But I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to do so. It's just going to be like this. That's great. Okay. And I mean, even that is actually hyper expressive. It's kind of cool. But we're not going to do that. We're going to override the offset by writing a property on this transform. And this transform, when you read it, just says parameters dot. And the parameters are the delta. So we're going to go parameters dot delta. And we're just going to do it 0.1. There we go. And I think this stroke, I would just want it to be dark gray. There we go. All right, and last thing I'm going to do, last one, is I'm going to write a little fill opacity to this guy. Fill opacity, and it's going to be 0.3. Oh man, that indeed looks cool. And now I can just put him back in it because he's on a different layout. I'm just going to use the M key, snap him there. And I think B as well. Cool, Shift B. Base point rotate. Boom. I'm going to lift these up. Just these guys. And I'm going to write a base point. So this is a long movie now. This is an enthralling and long movie. Base height. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a feature property, the base height. I'm going to add 1 to it. So I'm going to add 3 to it. There we go. So what that does is, because this was sitting at the bottom, so if I add 0 to it, you don't need a louver there. You need it up per floor. So you add 3. Then I'm going to offset it a wee bit more. 1. It's funny how large these offsets get. 1 meter. And that looks like a legitimate building to me. And now I feel like I want it to not be blue. I feel like I want it to be, yeah, something cool. Oh. So I'm taking the view from the sun. Very cool.